I thought winning elections and holding power was everything. I made sacrifices no man should ever make, and I believed death would never catch me. But when my heart stopped, I was dragged into a place of torment so real, so terrifying. And by mercy, I returned to warn you. My name is Honorable Peter from Nigeria, a well-known politician in my constituency. I never thought my story would be told this way. When I walked the corridors of power, people bowed at my feet. My name echoed in the halls of government, and I thought I had won. But no one knew the price I paid. No one knew the secrets I carried in the midnight hours. I did things no man should ever do. Things that even now make my soul tremble as I speak from the shadows of eternity. It all began with a hunger that consumed me, the hunger for power. I wanted the throne, the title, the applause of men. And when the whisper came, promising me victory if only I gave what was asked, I agreed without hesitation. I thought it was just politics. I thought it was just the cost of winning. But I was wrong. One night, after yet another victory celebration, I felt my chest tighten. The wine glass fell from my hand. The music faded. My own body betrayed me, and I collapsed in the midst of my triumph. In that moment, I didn't realize it was not just death that had come for me, but judgment. From my earliest days, I was ambitious. I looked at leaders and envied their influence. I told myself, one day I will rise higher than them all. One day I will sit where decisions are made. What started as a dream soon turned into an obsession. I studied politics. I mingled with the wealthy. I charmed the masses with promises I never intended to keep. Every step was calculated. Every friendship was an investment. I was determined to win, no matter the cost. But with each step upward, I discovered something darker beneath the surface. Politics, I learned, was not just about votes. It was about power, raw, ruthless, spiritual power. Men whispered of secret meetings where real decisions were made. I was invited into rooms where laughter was hollow, where pacts were signed not with ink, but with blood. At first, I resisted. I told myself I could climb without bowing, but the hunger in me would not be silenced. When the chance came, I took it. If you want the crown, they told me, you must be willing to pay the price. Their words chilled me, but my heart was already hardened. I told myself it was only ritual, only tradition, nothing real. How foolish I was. The night of my initiation, I walked into a hall lit by candles, with faces hidden behind masks. They spoke words I didn't understand, and I repeated them. They drew symbols on the floor, and I stood within them. In that moment, I felt something enter me. Something cold, something heavy, something that whispered, "You belong to us now." And yet, afterward, doors began to open for me. Opponents fell, scandals disappeared, and money flowed like a river. Crowds cheered my name. Journalists painted me as a rising star. I looked into the mirror and told myself I was destined for greatness. But behind my smile was a gnawing emptiness, a constant fear that the price would one day be collected. I silenced my conscience with success. I built my empire. I gathered loyal men around me. And when the people cast their votes, I stood on stage with my fist raised high, drenched in victory. They saw a hero. They saw a champion. But they didn't see the chains around my soul. For years I lived like a king. But every time I closed my eyes at night, I heard whispers. Every time I sat alone, I felt unseen eyes watching me. I told myself it was the price of power. I told myself everyone does it. But deep down, I knew. I had walked too far into darkness to ever turn back. And the darkness was not finished with me. I wish I could tell you that the secret meetings ended there, that I had paid my dues and moved on. But power is a beast that is never satisfied. Once you feed it, it demands more. The whispers that guided me grew louder, the masked men returned, and the price for the next election was far greater than before. At first, I tried to resist. I told myself, surely I have done enough. Surely my loyalty is proven. But they only laughed. The higher you climb, they said, the greater the offering required. I felt trapped. To step away now meant to lose everything, my position, my wealth, my prestige. And so, I chose the unthinkable. They demanded something pure, something innocent. They said such a life had the strongest power. My mind screamed against it, but my heart was already poisoned by ambition. I silenced my conscience with promises of victory. Just this once, I told myself. Only one more sacrifice and I will secure my place forever. That night haunts me more than any other. I will not describe the details. You do not need to hear them. But I will tell you this. The silence of heaven that night was unbearable. I looked up at the sky, hoping for thunder, hoping for some sign to stop me. None came. And when it was done, I felt a weight crush my chest, as though the very air condemned me. For weeks afterward, I could not sleep. Every sound in the night felt like a cry. Every whisper in the wind carried accusation. I drowned myself in celebration, in riches, in flesh and wine. But none of it silenced the guilt. Still, when the votes were counted, the people shouted my name. The crown was placed on my head, and for a moment I believed the lie again. It was worth it. I have won. But the whispers never left me. At rallies I would see shadows among the crowd, faces staring at me with hollow eyes. In my home I would wake to screams that no one else could hear, and when I looked in the mirror I no longer recognized the man staring back. His smile was mine, but his eyes belonged to someone else. Yet I pressed on. I sat in high offices. I signed decrees. I enjoyed the pleasures of the world. Outwardly, I was unstoppable, but inwardly, I was already a prisoner. I remember one night after a grand banquet, when my closest ally turned to me and whispered, "They will come for you. You know?" I laughed nervously, asking what he meant. He only smiled and said, "Every debt must be paid, even yours." Then he walked away, leaving me trembling in my seat. I tried to ignore him. I tried to bury myself in politics, in power, in pleasures. But a seed of dread had been planted, and only weeks later, at the height of my reign, the moment I feared arrived. It was sudden. There was no warning. One moment I was raising a glass to toast my victory. The next, a sharp pain struck my chest. My vision blurred, my body collapsed, and voices screamed around me. I tried to speak, but my tongue was heavy. I tried to breathe, but the air turned to fire. In that instant, I realized that my time had run out. And then, the darkness came for me. When my heart stopped, I thought it would be silence. But death was not silence. It was terror. I remember the confusion first. My body lay on the ground, people shouting, doctors rushing in, and yet I was standing above them, watching it all. I could see my own face, pale and lifeless, while they tried desperately to revive me. "Stay with us," one voice cried. But I felt no pain. I felt light, as though I were floating. For a moment I thought, perhaps this is peace. Perhaps death is nothing more than release. But then the atmosphere shifted. The room grew cold, the lights seemed to dim, and shadows began to move where no shadows should be. I felt a presence, many presences, gathering around me. I turned, and my heart, though it was no longer beating, seemed to sink in dread. Figures emerged from the darkness, tall, twisted beings, their forms shifting like smoke, yet solid enough to terrify. Their eyes burned with hatred, and their mouths twisted into smiles that chilled me to the bone. One pointed at me and hissed, "He is ours." I tried to step back, but there was no ground to stand on. I tried to cry out to the doctors, but no sound left my mouth. I was invisible to the living, and yet fully visible to these creatures. Panic surged through me. I shouted in my soul, "No, not me. I was a leader. I was powerful, but they only laughed. My earthly titles meant nothing here. The creatures closed in, their hands like claws reaching for me. A stench filled the air, foul and suffocating. The sound of chains rattled, though I saw none. And as they touched me, a cold fire spread through my being, burning yet freezing at the same time. I struggled, but I was powerless. I remembered the words I had once heard from an old preacher, words I mocked then, but which now pierced me like knives. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul? It was too late. I had gained the world, and now I was losing my soul. The creatures dragged me away from the room. I saw the walls of the hospital fade into darkness. I screamed, I begged, I pleaded for mercy. God, help me, I cried. But the heavens were silent, just as they had been the night of my darkest deed. And so I descended. Pulled by forces I could not resist, I was carried through tunnels of shadow, falling deeper and deeper into a realm I never believed was real. Hell was waiting. The deeper they dragged me, the more I realized death was not the end. It was the beginning of something far worse. We moved through a tunnel that seemed alive, pulsing like veins of the earth itself. The walls dripped with something foul, and the air grew heavier with every breath I tried to take. The creatures surrounding me hissed and laughed, their voices echoing like 1,000 broken instruments. I begged them to release me, but they tightened their grip. "You belong here," they sneered. "You made your choice." The cries came first. Distant at first, like the wind, but as we descended, they grew louder, sharper, unbearable. I realized they were voices, countless voices screaming in agony. Some cried for mercy, some cursed their fate, others wailed in hopeless despair. My heart trembled as I recognized a few of them. Men I had known in politics, faces I had seen on television, influential leaders, famous names, now reduced to tormented shadows. And then the heat struck me, a searing wave unlike anything on earth. My very soul felt as though it were burning, though my body was gone. Rivers of fire stretched before me, and mountains of flame rose high into a sky of endless smoke. The stench was overwhelming, sulfur, decay, and something far worse, the smell of death that never dies. The ground writhed beneath my feet like living flesh. Every step sent shocks of pain through me. The creatures released me at the edge of a great pit, and I stumbled forward, staring in horror at what lay below. Multitudes, uncountable souls, writhed and screamed, their bodies engulfed in fire, yet never consumed. Their faces twisted in agony, their voices merged into one endless cry that seemed to pierce the very core of my being. Some lifted their eyes and saw me. "You," they cried, "you betrayed us. You led us astray." Their words tore through me. These were the people I had lied to, manipulated, promised a better life while I sold my own soul for power. Now their suffering accused me. Their pain was my legacy. I tried to cover my ears, but my hands passed through nothing. I tried to turn away, but there was no escape. The pit drew me closer, as though gravity itself longed to swallow me whole. Then I saw them, other leaders, once mighty on earth. Men and women whose signatures had changed laws, whose voices once commanded armies. They reached toward me, their faces twisted in torment. "We thought we were untouchable," one cried. "We thought we could outwit judgment." Their words struck me with dreadful truth. Hell is full of the powerful, those who thought their influence could shield them from the eternal. Suddenly, flames rose from the pit and wrapped around my legs. I screamed, a sound I had never made in all my life. The fire was alive, clinging to me, burning without consuming, torturing without end. I fell to my knees, crying for mercy, but the creatures only laughed. In that torment, I understood what eternity meant. Not years, not centuries, forever. and I knew there would be no end, no relief, no hope. I had traded everything, my soul, my eternity, for a crown that lasted only a few short years, and now the crown of fire was mine forever. As the fire consumed me, I thought I was alone in my torment. But when I lifted my eyes, I saw them, faces in the flames, twisted and contorted, yet still unmistakably human. The first was a man I had admired in my youth, a political giant whose shadow I once lived under. I remembered how I envied his power, how I swore to surpass him. Now his once commanding voice was reduced to wails of agony. His eyes locked on mine, and he screamed, "This is where ambition led me, and now you have joined us." Beside him was a woman, a wealthy socialite who had funded my campaigns. Her words had once dripped with charm and flattery, but now they were curses hurled at me through her pain. "You promised me influence," she shrieked. "You promised me security. Instead, you dragged us all into this place." Everywhere I turned, familiar faces appeared, men and women I had shaken hands with at banquets, allies who once toasted to my success, rivals I thought long defeated. Here we were all the same, stripped of titles, stripped of wealth, stripped of dignity, only naked souls writhing in endless fire. One figure clawed his way toward me, his flesh peeling and reforming in the flames. I recognized him instantly, my closest advisor, the one who once whispered strategies into my ear. His face twisted in hatred as he spat. "You led me here. You told me there was nothing beyond death, that power was everything. You lied, and now I burn with you." I tried to deny it, but the truth rang louder than my excuses. My lies, my promises, my corruption, all of them echoed in this pit, each one a chain binding me tighter to my fate. And then I saw children, not as flames, but as shadows, watching me from the edges of the fire. Their eyes pierced through me with sorrow deeper than words. I could not bear their gaze. I fell to my knees, weeping, but no tears came. Only the fire embraced me. In that moment I understood the true horror of hell. It was not just the fire, nor the screams, nor the endless torment. It was the memory, the faces of those I had deceived, those I had used, those I had destroyed. Their cries would haunt me for eternity. And still the creatures laughed, dragging me deeper into the pit. In the pit, as flames wrapped around me and familiar faces screamed in torment, I thought it was over. I thought eternity had claimed me. I felt the weight of every sin pressing down, and I knew I deserved it. I cried out, not with words of pride or power, but with the last fragments of my soul. "God, if you are real, have mercy on me." For the first time, something shifted. The creatures that had bound me shrieked and pulled back, as though an unseen hand restrained them. The fire that wrapped around me loosened. A great light pierced the darkness, brighter than anything I had ever seen. I covered my face, for I could not bear it. The screams of hell grew faint, and the pull of eternity seemed to release me. And then I heard a voice, gentle yet filled with authority. It said, "This is not yet your time. Go back and warn them." In that moment I felt myself lifted out of the pit. The flames fell away, the shadows faded. I gasped as if waking from a nightmare. And I opened my eyes to see doctors surrounding me, astonished that I was alive. I had been gone, but now I had returned. I speak these words not as a politician, but as a man who stood on the edge of eternity and was pulled back. I saw hell. I felt its torment. I was marked for it. But by mercy I cannot explain. I was given another chance, a chance to warn you. Do not be deceived by power, wealth, or applause. They are fleeting, shadows that vanish the moment death arrives. I chased them all, and they betrayed me. I reached the height of glory on earth, only to see the depths of despair in eternity. Hear me. Heaven is real. Hell is real. Judgment is real. The choices you make today echo beyond the grave. You may laugh, doubt, or dismiss these words. I once did the same, but I have returned to tell you the truth. Do not wait until it is too late. Repent while breath is in your lungs. Cry out for mercy while there is time. Because once death fully claims you, your story will be sealed forever. I was spared, though I did not deserve it. You still have life, you still have a choice. Take it now.